Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I have to say, first and foremost, it is so great to see all of you wearing your rare disease t-shirts and your rare disease colors and your zebras. Thank you so much for recognizing why we do what we do and the importance of rare diseases today. It's an honor to be at Rocket, a company where we can celebrate things that we believe in. So I'm really lucky and fortunate that rare disease championships I've done over 20 years, at Rocket, we can do it at this level. We can get communities involved, we can get our partners involved, and we can get each of you involved in raising awareness. So next time when you go home and your family member's asking you about the zebra, what does it mean? You'll know what it means. And I hope today's day, for those of you that are in here in person and those of you that are listening online, you'd find it to be valuable. If nothing at all, I hope you take away the fact that there is hope out there. So today's agenda, we have a full day of agenda. We do have great coffee breaks and conversations that will go on. But I'm going to talk a little bit about rare disease and why it's important to us and why we do the work we do at Rocket. Then we're going to talk about a disease that many of you know in the room here that you're working on, whether it's for manufacturing, releasing the product, or the clinical trials. It's Danon disease. And Danon disease is so devastating and it's so complicated. And the work we do here, we've been able to partner with patients and patient communities to show data that shows promise for this patient community. So we're going to learn a little bit about changing paradigm of Danon disease. What does it mean from patient, family, and advocacy groups? And while we're working on the population of the severe males, talking about the females and the severity that impacts them as well. Then we will move on to talk about foundation work that RTW does. RTW has done a great job over the years of supporting so many causes, including advancing science, making rare diseases that do not have funding be available. So we'll have a presentation on that. After a break, we'll talk about something that's near and dear and some of you were part of, which is 2 years ago, we did Make-A-Wish Foundation event, the Rare Disease Day event there. It's great to have them come here and share what they do at Make-A-Wish Foundation and our support for their work and the incredible stuff that goes on in making each kid's hope and dream happen for that day. I think it's a beautiful way to start everything along. So I'm going to ask you maybe just 1 minute of your time without cell phones, without multitasking, if you can give me that. Yeah? Okay. Here's our minute. Not even half a minute. Okay, 55 seconds. That's a minute. How did you guys feel in that 1 minute? How long did that feel to you? Did it feel like lifetime? Now imagine when you have either yourself or your loved one feel something feels wrong, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. It's not a minute that a person spends, right? It's hours, it's years until they figure out what they have going on. So imagine that 1 minute in time when you're sitting there as somebody that's impacted, or you're sitting there as a mom, or you're sitting there as a loved one, or a caregiver. And all the questions that come to your mind of, okay, what's the disease? What's the challenge? What's the issue? What are the options? How long does that feel? Sometimes a minute could feel like a lifetime when you don't have answers and you don't know where to turn, right? Sometimes it feels like years pass and we don't even know in a blink of an eye. But it really depends on where you are. And there is no other way for our clock to stop until you have somebody impacted by a disease, especially a disease that have no treatment options. So there are more than 7,000 diseases out there, right? I think NIH recently published an article that says about 10,000 rare diseases out there. We're still saying 7,000 because more than 7,000 because we're trying to get the data. Each disease, the reason it's called rare is in the US, at the time it gets orphan drug designation, 200,000 Americans or less are impacted, right? So on one hand, people could say, oh, rare disease, why bother with them? It's only 200,000 people impacted, right? But if you think about it, if there are 7,000 or 10,000 diseases out there that are rare, how many people are impacted? Did you guys know most of these diseases are genetic in nature? And when something's in genetic in nature, you're born with this. That means it impacts kids. That means it impacts family members. That means it could be passed from generation to generation, right? And when there's a genetic disease, what better platform than cell and gene therapy where you could potentially go look at the gene of interest that are not working or that are defective or missing and think about options, right? But at this point, cell and gene therapy is still in the forefront of innovations. And there are only, 13 or so drugs approved. I think Mike from ARM can keep me honest, in cell and gene therapy. So how many people are impacted? How many drugs out there? Well, only 5% of the drugs currently are approved for the FDA for rare diseases. Only 5% of the 7,000 plus. So that means there's a huge mountain of work that needs to happen. That means there are a lot of people waiting for hope. There are a lot of people that are impacted by this. In the US, 30 million Americans are impacted by rare diseases. Globally, it's 300 million. And when I say this, this is just individuals. So if I have a rare disease, I'm one of those 30 or 300 million, right? But how many of you had, unfortunately, had a situation where it's not individuals, right? When are you sick and you're sick alone and it only impacts you? It impacts everybody around you. So imagine if you have a rare disease and you have at least 3 to 4 family members that are impacted by this. At that point, over 1 billion people in the world are impacted by rare diseases because the disease doesn't just impact the person, the caregivers, the loved ones, loss of time from each other, from work, from all of the components. It all becomes compiling and it all becomes overwhelming. So rare diseases and fighting for the rare disease to give hope is just, it's not about 200,000 people. It's about making a difference in 1 billion plus people's lives. Now, this is really sad. I saw this and I'm like, wow, this still hasn't changed since 2003, 4, when I first learned about rare diseases. Over 20 years later, the newest data still shows 16.9 years from a first symptom that a person gets to actually getting the right diagnosis. I mean, some of these rare diseases, the ones that impact the kids, some of them don't even live till the age of 5. So imagine it takes you 17 years to even get a right diagnosis. Who has that time and luxury? Now, look at this. People talk about rare diseases, financial impact is not that much. There is. This is data that was presented by, I believe, Everyday Life Foundation. They published this data in 2022 that showed $1 trillion of US economy burden is based on rare diseases. It's not just about the diseases and how do you treat them, right? It's because all of these other factors come into play. Who's impacted? The caregiver, missing school, missing work, right? Medical devices that you need at home, support care that you need from nurses, the transportation to and back from the hospitals. And we're very lucky that we live in the East Coast where pretty much a half hour to an hour radius, we have a hospital. In Midwest and other parts of the country, it's not the case, right? We talk to some of the families that are like, hey, I have to go 5 hours to a center. So imagine time loss. It costs us nearly $1 trillion for rare disease to be impacting families. So when you have something that's so impactful, what I'm surprised by, and eventually, I know I've said this before, we need to start at the basis. We need to start with the next generation of scientists physicians, pharmacists, and healthcare providers and nurses, right? Because in medical school, right, when you hear hoofbeat, you learn in medical school, what does that mean? Must be a horse, right? In medical school, in healthcare degrees that you learn that you look for the most common symptoms to be associated with the most common diseases. Don't think about the rare disease, right? Because it's an anomaly. It will rarely ever be impacted. So that's the zebra symbol, right? Zebra means you don't think of it first. You think about the horses and you think about the most common diseases that are impacting. And then that's the reason that it takes about 17 years to get the right diagnosis. Hopefully we can change that because this day and age, genetic testing is available. I'm really proud of the work that our commercial medical affairs team has done in putting Mission Genome together. Now we're launching a platform where cardiovascular diseases, if somebody has it or suspects they have it, they can get free genetic testing and counseling on behalf of Rocket and make it a little less painful for them to understand what disease they have. Now a zebra. I see some of you guys wearing a zebra. I have a question for those of you in the room and those of you online listening. How many of you know a patient impacted by a rare disease? Raise your hand. Okay. How many zebras out there? So in the room, at least I saw at least 15 hands up, if not more. Now think about that. If you add those of you that know the people, whether it's you, your loved one, how many people are impacted by that rare disease? And how many caregivers are impacted? How many healthcare providers are involved? Now, if you look at it, this is a sea of zebras. This is no longer rare, it's a community. So today we're here to celebrate community of rare diseases. We're here to celebrate and give hope to the communities that are impacted by challenges of not having the right diagnosis, by challenges of not feeling that they're alone and they have a community and support to lean on, by hope that there are scientists that are in the room here and scientists in all the companies and academic institutions around the world that are trying to find a cure. They're trying to find treatment options. So my goal is to let the community here know that you're not alone. We have people that are passionate, that are dedicated, that want to make a difference. And even a single person, a single idea could make a difference. At Rocket in 2018, I think we had, it's a little funny story. Alicia Keys had her new song, New York, something come out. And Empire State Building lit up for it. So the idea was, hey, if they can light up Empire State Building for a concert or an artist, why can't they do it for rare diseases? So fortunately, we were about to become headquarters in there. I worked with one of my colleagues that's sitting in the room here, and we got Empire State Building to change the Rare Disease Day colors, right? And it became an iconic symbol. And next year, we had a bunch of volunteers. I think Rocket team was 18 people, and about 6 of them called everywhere. We called everyone everywhere. And lo and behold, we have over 120 monuments around the world light up for Rare Disease Day on February 28th. We were able to amplify this with partnership with NORD, with Yordras, with Italian patient advocacy, Spanish patient advocacy, and it just took a life of its own. What was the most shocking thing in 2018 for us is on Facebook post next day, or 2 days or 3 days later, that when we saw, patients from around the world felt that one night they had hope. They saw lights on their iconic buildings, and they said, hey, there are people working on this to make a difference. And that difference is gonna mean maybe there's gonna be a treatment option available. Maybe somebody cares and will make the science a reality. And to us, that's one of the beautiful things. I think at Rocket, what I love about Rocket is we can amplify that each team member here can make a world of a difference in the work you do at work, but also the communities you give back to. And so let's work together. Bring your best self, bring your whole self, bring your passion. And it really takes arts, science, humanity, and care. And I think one of the words I heard today when I was talking to Jenny, and that was a beautiful word, grace. Let's give each other grace, because what we're doing, it's not easy. What the rare disease communities go through, it's not easy. And there are gonna be ups and there are gonna be downs. And we need to support each other to make things possible. So you can start in the smallest way. You know, I'm glad that Chuck a few years ago at Rocket figured out how to light up the Cranberry facility. And every time people drive it, like, what are those lights for, right? Asking those questions start the conversation. hopefully that leads to genetic testing, and hopefully that leads to potential hope. So giving hope and providing hope, I'm so thankful that at Rocket we can do events like this. And it takes a village. And I'll be honest, we have an incredible team that has made this happen. So I'm gonna ask the person I've kind of held responsible this year, who's volunteered, Meg, to get up, and Kevin, and every single person that has volunteered to make today's event. Could you please get up in the room? Would you mind standing up, please? These volunteers do this above and beyond their day job, right? And the passion, I mean, the creativity that you'll see, it comes from the heart. And that's what I love, is people really caring and the hard work you're doing. And so it does take a village to make things like this happen and to raise awareness. And I thank you for taking the time of your nights and weekends and other ideas to make this happen. And I want to thank our partners at Lanza, for being a rare resilience partner. They were partners with us for a few years. We're excited to have you guys here and supporting us. And we have partners across the way that have made this happen. So we're really thankful for your support, because what we want to do is, while this is a Rocket sponsored event, this is not a Rocket event. This is a rare disease day event. This is a community event. And it does take us, our partners, our patients and communities that we work with, to really make a difference. So while it's a Monday and not the February 28th, the rarest day of the year, we realized the February 28th, so many events happen, and we didn't want to compete and have people pick and choose. So I hope you take the time this entire week to really support all of the communities that are doing some amazing work every single day, from going to the Congress to extend the priority review voucher program for kids with rare disease to have more treatment options, to lobbying for innovations, NIH activities, FDA activities, and so much more. So with all of that, I hope you have a great day hearing from the community, hearing why we do what we do, and hopefully at the end of the day, you'll feel a little bit of hope and promise for a better future for patients with rare diseases, and therefore a better world. Thank you, everyone.